Yeah. I don't even get an interview. All right, so good afternoon, officially at noon. So, wanted to tell you guys, the story of our, basically our journey, but we're gonna, zoom in on the, every door direct mail postcard marketing is really how we built our business. So, my wife Karen and our new day one assistant, Terry, so she doesn't know what we're like yet, so we try to keep it away from her. Just to tell you the story of our timeline a little bit. So I got my license originally in 1999. So, and that became relevant when Karen and I started marketing ourselves in 2015, because all of a sudden we were new to the marketplace. People were like, how long have you been doing this? And I kind of like stretched the truth and said, well, I've had my license since 1999, right? It seemed like a long time ago when it was 2015. And I said, well, we just recently joined up as a team. Karen got her license and we started this team here locally. And we were able to overcome like some kind of tenure questions and things like that based on that. That was kind of advantageous to have had that, even though I only sold a couple houses back then with Jack on. It was a short stint, but they gave us the storyline. So from 2005 to 2019, I worked at Verizon Wireless. That's where Karen and I met. I had relocated probably about 6 times with the company. Started in Rockville, Maryland, and then went to Virginia, then back to Harrisburg, then upstate New York, and then New York City, essentially. So a lot of relocation. Thought I was going to be a Verizon employee for life. However, leadership changes, sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad. There was 2 different occasions where I was told my job was eliminated, given like a severance offer. Both times I campaigned for myself, decided to stay, and found different positions, but each time like had less trust in the company and had positions I liked less than I did before. But the second time it happened to both Karen and I on the same day. So we kind of realized that we were just disposable kind of numbers in this big company, right? We didn't really matter. So somebody else could determine our fate. So we did both stay in the company for actually a year or 2 after that. With that message being sent, like on a Tuesday morning that, hey, you guys both lose your jobs. When my mom's birthday was January 28th, and we had till February 28th to find a job or we'd be unemployed. So we decided to go out and find something else to focus on, which became real estate. So prior to that, we had bought a rental at that point that I had. We went to open houses kind of like in our spare time as like real estate dorks. We decided to get our license. Said, okay, let's try to build something so that the next time like we get this kind of offer or rejection or whatever you want to call it from our company, we can just kind of give them the finger and roll out, right? So we're going to build something that can sustain us later on. And that, I'm not here to share that my story is possible for everybody because it was unique. We were subsidized by significant incomes to do what we did, but the lessons that we have, anybody can do on a smaller scale and build up. So it would be interesting to share that with you. But so we got licensed in 2015, working full-time at Verizon. I kept my job till 2019. So 4 or 5 years after we started real estate. Karen left her job in 2018. So for 3 to 4 years, we still did both jobs, right? So we worked full-time. I had the 2 phones, 2 laptops, driving all over the Northeast, staying in hotels while being actually most passionate about real estate, right? Like I had the day-to-day job, he hears me. I had the day-to-day job that paid the bills, gave me my benefits and my 401k and everything, but I gradually kept losing interest in this phone call and more interest in this phone call. So the first year, we did 21 sales in business. And keep in mind, we lived in Palmyra. I went to Bowling Springs, so I was a transplant. We only landed in Palmyra because it was somewhat in between Carlisle and Lebanon, where Karen was from, and we went to a good school district and things like that. So we were both kind of newbies to the town. So we didn't have any credibility like Matt has, and he was kind of born with a silver spoon. But so we marketed for it. So 21 sales our first year, 21 sales our first year, 57 our second. We bought a rental, trying to figure out our path, right? Like, can we make it in real estate? Can we eventually leave our jobs? Or is this just like a fun thing to do and we build a rental portfolio at the same time? The third year, we kind of hit it big and did 100 sales, right? And I had a vision to open our own independent brokerage. And I at the real estate commission, signing up for my broker's license, when Karen called, and she was progressively getting more scrutiny from her employer because she wasn't able to get on all the calls and attend all the meetings, because she was doing a lot of the showing, because I was all throughout the Northeast with my job. So she called and said, I think I'm in trouble. I missed a call. Like, it's not good. What should I do? And I said, you know what? Give me a notice. So it was actually rather spontaneous. I said, look, I passed the broker exam. Like, everything's going decent. We sold 100 sales. And I was very risk adverse. I mean, a lot of people would laugh if I said that because I'm kind of a maniac otherwise. But I was very reluctant to give up our job. Right? I was 15 years in the job. She was 8 or 10. We were making good money, had great benefits and so forth. But at that moment, it's like, okay, what's the alternative? You're going to get fired or written up or whatever. So she decided to go full time. I followed about a year and a half later in 2019, but we saw the growth there. We went from 101 sales in 18 to 148 in 19. And it just got to be too much. Like, I would have a break from meeting at work, and I would literally be in the bathroom and call her and say, I got 2 minutes. What do you have for me? And like, it was a lot to keep on track. I would pull off along like Route 270 in DC, like writing contracts for people with traffic wisdom by and stuff. So it wasn't exactly a healthy lifestyle, but by then, honestly, I was still worried about making it. Like, there's 100 sales a year, enough to know that I won't go backwards and not be able to pay the bills ultimately. Because, it was a big risk for me to go from the protection of a biweekly paycheck to like just knowing that you have to create everything on your own. But ultimately, 2019, I also resigned. It was a bad time to do it. I would say a couple months later, COVID happened. I would work from home for a year and probably didn't pull it off. But anyhow, in 2022, obviously, I met with Matt and Dave. We ended up buying Patrick out. I became the OP of the East. I put in here, paid off house, because this entire journey, by that time, we probably had 300 sales. I was worried about longevity, right? So I just made a commitment from the very beginning. Karen didn't even know I did this, but every single settlement, I put $1,000 in principal on our house, right? Like, I never saw that thousand. So if the check was 7,000, I put 1,000 here. 6,000 went into our operating account or whatever. And just by doing that religiously, 4 or 5 years later, 300 sales, we were able to pay off our home that we just built in 2016. And we only put 5% down. We barely could afford it at that time, but less than 3 years later, we were able to pay it off. So obviously that gave us some strength to make that decision to leave, because we didn't have our month mortgage payment. But the OP job, so 136 sales that year, honestly, it did interfere with real estate. We saw a drop off at 98, and then down to 77. Now, some of that was by design, because we were doing Zillow leads hard, working with buyers, driving all over the place, and we decided to not do that. So we stopped going to Zillow for the most part. We were spending, gosh, $5,000 or $10,000 a month sometimes on Zillow, and probably selling 2 or 3 houses a month on Zillow. It worked better then than it does now. But guess what? Zillow, what do they want when they call? They want to see a house right now. So it was a lot to give up and say, I'm going to drop everything and take a flyer on this random person I never met, no idea if they're going to be loyal to me or qualified or ever buy a house, and stop what I'm doing and go out and show it to them on Friday or Saturday, like they want. So it was good to build a business, and we had a lot of residual business from that, but it was bad in the way that you weren't in control. And then 2025, so we hired a buyer's agent, Aaron. We have big goals for this year. We plan to do 110 sales. We're on track for that. We just recently hit our 800th home sold. Karen and I personally don't work with buyers, except for like my mom, and some like certain important people that expect to work with us. We haven't figured out the right way to hand them off. So we're basically out buyer production now. Aaron does all those. We're focusing on listings. And we plan to take 50 listings this year. We're already at 23, so we're actually outpacing that. It's a good start to the year. But along that journey, we purchased rentals 3 through 11, right? Because I knew that if I left my full-time job, my benefits ended, right? Like, I no longer got a 401k, didn't get health insurance. We have a step, but my vision the entire way, and it's contrary, like Dave says, I'm nuts, to be honest with you, but I bought 11 rentals. I put 25% down. I've never taken a penny. I just roll everything into the principal because that's my pension. So they'll be paid off for us in roughly 5 years, generating $150,000, $200,000 a year. So to me, that's like the bulletproof moment where we can cover our expenses and everything else is gravy at that point because we had that cash flow coming in with rental properties. But that's just to kind of tee it up for those who don't know it. I figured Domination. Okay, so source of business in the early days, so like first 5 years, right? We started out with mailers. Reason for that is because we were busy. I was all over the place. We wanted to work with sellers, and we didn't know how to get them because nobody knew who we were. We were new to the business, so I just immediately did some research. And common sense, sellers require less work, right? I can go on a listing appointment, kind of wine and dine them at the appointment, do everything else behind the scenes, and essentially sell their house and not really have to be present again. And that was the only thing that was possible for us because we were all over the place. So we started with mailers. I looked up a lot of studies on top of mind awareness and every door direct mail and so forth. And I'll get to that. We did the Zillow open houses. We did almost every Sunday. So we would usually divide and do two. And we got a lot of business that way. It was back when it was more a buyer's market, but people would say, hey, I like your personality, I like your approach. Will you be my agent, right? And we were able to grow that way. Client events, we've expanded recently, but we've always done the pie giveaway. We did a big annual event every year at Englewood that we actually invite all of our past customers to everything, right? Some people are like, hey, only people that bought this year or whatever, but I'm actually more excited to have somebody come that bought their house 5, 6, 7 years ago because they're closer to transacting than somebody that bought their house last year. So staying in touch with those people is important. Lead sources today, I think we still have like obviously the database conversations of the events, reaching out to them with a touch. We just recently got more involved with social media. Up until 3 months ago, we didn't have TikTok or Instagram or any of that stuff.
How many events are you guys doing right now, like per year?
We're trying to do quarterly event, like so 3 like smaller like pie giveaway happy hours a year and 1 big event. We did a carnival last August for the entire town where we had literally inflatables. We had a petting zoo. I can remember everything, but we had what else? A tractor pool.
Face painters, tattoos, little.
Yeah, we had all kinds of stations. It was in the net in Palmyra. It's kind of like Spooky Nook, and we had
Animal farm.
400, 500, 600 people come to that.
Are you guys reaching out to vendors to try to zero cost it?
Yeah.
Are you zero cost?
Yeah.
Not everything, but we're subsidizing our costs. But I mean, to me, real estate is so lucrative where if one event that costs $10,000 in Englewood, and this is obviously also contrary to what some people would say, if I spend 10,000 or if I get half of the subsidy, spend 5,000, like I'm almost guaranteed to get a sale or more if I'm in front of 100 of our past clients, spending the evening with them as they enjoy a magician, a band, drinks and appetizers on us. Like, so for me, like the return is so lucrative that a sale these days with average sale price, ours is close to 400, is worth $10,000, $12,000. You can afford to do things and not have to zero cost at all, but obviously it's the best practice. Repeat clients, so in the beginning, repeat clients, I was so annoyed from a marketing perspective that we were spending thousands of dollars to try to get customers. And I saw the legacy agents in our marketplace, Judy Stover, Dave Drovnog, Joan May, like they didn't do anything. People just called them like, hey, you sold my grandpa a house back in 1990. I want to buy or sell a home, right? It was easier. It looked easier for them. I was like, when does that easy stuff ever come? And it took a while, but gradually it came. Like, hey, I got your number from my friend. You sold me my house. Now we're getting relocated, divorced. We had a kid, whatever it may be. So I'd say that probably now 35–40% of our business is like repeat and referral, where obviously from day one it's zero, right? Like you have to work for every single sale. And then we still do mailers every month, always. Helpful tips. There's some stuff I learned along the way. I did a class like this in our market center, but you only pay KW 21% if you don't cap, right? There's been years that we grow a significant amount where my effective split is like 98.2, right? So like the capping model is huge, and some of us forget about that, where as the cap stays relatively the same, I think it's been the same for a while, our average sale price goes up, and actually with NAR, our commission has gone up, at least on our team, right? So it's easier to cap, and your split becomes more advantageous to you. And then creating your own brand. So I think a lot of people miss out on this. Some of you guys do well. I see your socials, but you know, a lot of times we focus on a very small Palmyra town, 9,300 homes. And people, when we had 5 or 6 or 7 active listings, they would see our signs and they felt like they saw them everywhere. But it was kind of subliminal, right? It was the signs on top of the mailers, on top of seeing us at the soccer game or whatever. But the reason why they remembered the sign is because it was our picture. Back then, it was, I think when we first started, it was a picture from a cruise ship and she had like her hand on my chest. People were like, oh, Matt,
Yeah,
is it
I saw
well?
that across the street, and I was like, who is this?
But they remembered it, and they would say, oh my gosh, we see your signs everywhere. Well, they didn't, they just remembered it because it was different, because Becker has a blue and white sign, no photo, right? Iron Valley's black and gold or whatever, no photo. So they remembered it because it was different than the other ones. So we're trying to advertise our own brand versus the Keller Williams brand, and, you know,
That's why
KW,
we picked Keller Williams.
KW allows you to do that. You can be any size, color, as long as you don't violate the state laws, right? We have an agent in our office that a round sign, it could be almost anything. So, am I on the right slide? You can track it.
What I
Okay.
think a key there is your face is your brand. So yeah, in Pennsylvania, if you have your own logo, it can't be bigger than the Keller Williams logo, and that's a real estate commission issue, not a Keller Williams issue. But your face could take up almost the entire sign. Whereas,
That's, I'm touching on that branding, like this is Dan Witt in the bottom right corner, so he does his whole thing with door knocking, right? He's got recognized top 100 in the region, so his thing is door knocking. You got the tattoo reeler, I think he's in Minneapolis, like he had all of his signs are tie-dyed, spray painted, like graffiti looking. And then on the left side, this is an agent in our marketplace, Nicole DeBoyne, who's very active on social media. And I have on here, fake it till you make it. She got licensed roughly a year and a half ago. Probably to this day has sold less than 25 homes, but she looks like she's selling homes like mad because
I had no idea. I thought she was like selling
Yeah.
out and then one day I broke her down. I'm like, yo,
so she's calling agents tomorrow, can I do a video of your listing? Can I? And every time she does a home tour, every time she goes out to eat, she's posting videos and she's got a big following, as a result. So, you know, basically any of the stuff will work as long as you, keep double down on and keep doing what you originally intended to do. But, other tips, you know, I think running the business like a business in the early stages, we had all the commission running into our checking account. And honestly, it makes you do like a rational thing. And you're like, oh, we have 30 grand in my checking account. Let's go on vacation. Let's buy, you know, whatever, you know, and you have to kind of separate it out where we got, obviously along the way, probably in 2018, we formed an LLC. All of our commissions go to the LLC. The LLC pays me, for the commission, or Karen for the commission, of the sale, as if we were a member of the team. That way, ultimately, one day we could plug ourselves out, put somebody else in, and look at the profitability of the business itself. And then right now, I'm an employee doing a function in the business, so I'm getting paid to do the function, but I'm also the owner of the business. You get the dividend from the business. A lot of agents in our office are always like, hey, I just got my license, I'm a new realtor. Nobody wants a new realtor, right? So stop saying you're new, and that's where it's like the fake it till you make it, right? All of a sudden, it's kind of odd, but like all of a sudden you should just be a realtor. Like for everybody you meet, like, oh, I got into real estate, like you don't say it last week or whatever. So, and you can accomplish that by going out and filling your social pages with content, right? Going out and doing, you know, the videos, the interviews, the podcasts, the home tours, whatever it may be. And then most importantly, this came from the book, from the MRA book, but there's 2 paths to success in real estate marketing and prospecting, right? So we didn't have the time to do the prospecting, right? First of all, actually also didn't have the energy or the desire. We knocked on like 5 doors in a neighborhood. Out. I really threw my door. I threw the door hangers away and said, well, screw that then. Like that was too difficult. So I didn't have the time to do the prospecting because I'm working, right? Well, I'm working 60, 70 hours because of other job. So the marketing we did have the ability to do. That's why I said our story's a little bit different, because we had the cash flow to do it, but it still worked and something that you can still see value from. But so you see that on the next slide. Obviously, you have marketing versus prospecting. So marketing more money, clearly, but less time, and it reaches more people, and it's scalable, right? If something works on this small audience, it can work on a bigger audience if I scale it, because I can repeat it. And with money, I obviously invest the money, but I don't have to spend the same time that I would to do the prospecting. So that's where it was important for us. So top of mind awareness. So I did a lot of studying on this, and It's obviously a strategy, it seems to make sense, but you have to be the realtor that someone thinks of when it comes time to buy or sell a house. And it's hard to be relevant in somebody's life that sense. So you have to work for it prior to then to be memorable at that time. Otherwise, you're just getting lucky, right? If you happen to knock on their door, and I'll be damned, I was getting ready to list my house, you're the guy. You know, that would take like just a real big anomaly, right? It's not scalable, that would just be luck. But if you do things enough over and over again, you can become top of mind awareness. And if you look at that, it takes consistent branding, right? So you want to have the same look, like, you know, and that's like the photo, the logo, the color, the font, the organizational style of your messaging. And then effective marketing campaign, you have to figure out how you're going to market yourself. You have to provide superior customer experience in the process, and you have to have a multi or omni-channel effect, right? So not just one thing, you should be other places. It will compound itself if they don't just see you on Facebook. They also see you in their mailbox. They also see your sign in the yard. They also see you out at the community event or the fair, whatever it may be. But for us, the experience was key. We have 213 Google reviews right now. We get a decent amount of business from our Google reviews. And we also do some Google pay-per-click in there. But people, if you search right now, a realtor in Palmyra, PA, we're literally the first organic result on realtor.com, right? So we're the first local presence, right? You know, so that's been valuable, and it gives you authenticity, right? Somebody's looking for a realtor. I mean, where do you guys go? You go to a popular restaurant, the popular clothing store, whatever it may be. So we have the most reviews in our marketplace, but you also have the good feedback to back it up as well. So postcard farming, so this was how we started, that's me in my overall. So for those that don't know, EDDM, every door direct mail, so the post office charges you a fee structure based on how much work they have to put into delivering your mail. Every door direct mail is the cheapest because they don't do anything. They don't have to sort it, they don't have to, you know, read it with their scanners, they don't have to take pictures of it for the informed delivery, nothing. So every door direct mail, you have to mail to every house on a mailing route. Mailing route is determined by the mailman or the mailwoman, right? So every house that mail person goes to, you're going to send to whether you want to or not. So you have to be strategic with your selection of routes, because if you want to target a neighborhood here that has, you know, townhomes, well, you may also get a piece of this apartment complex or this mobile home community or whatever it may be, and you don't have a choice of that, right? But they give you the best rate because there's no work involved for them. The mail person literally has your carton of mailers on their passenger seat. They take all the sorted mail and they just grab one at every mailbox. So there's no thought put into it. And you're in the door, in the mailbox of the customer for 31 cents a piece, and that includes printing, right? So literally in their mailbox for 31 cents. So the steps to do that, you go to USPS.com, the postal site, click on business, which is in the top corner, very small, but like we're roughly like right here somewhere. And you click on every door direct mail, and then it brings up a mapping tool. You type in the zip code that you're interested in. So here I did 17050, and I clicked on a mailing route. So the blue route, so you can see how haphazard it is sometimes. The blue route is the mailing route of that mail person. So you have these homes at the top, and then you also have some around the county Gwinnett or whatever that is over there. So you don't have a choice in that. You have to look at the ones that have the best turnover, the average sale price that you're going to go after, et cetera. Then obviously you design a mailer. They're pretty loose with their requirements. They just want it to fit in the mailbox, really. So it can be anything from a standard like 3x5 postcard to literally it can be like 12 by 14. I did that once and got yelled at because they jammed up in everybody's mailboxes. So I specialize, I do a 6.5 by 9 a lot, like a jumbo postcard. I also do like a 4.5 by 12, like a slip, like a sliver, just to get different reactions. So it's not the same thing over and over again.
Dave, what's your typical or best call to action?
Buyers are waiting for your home, call us today, that type of thing. This is our early days, Karen, in the Caribbean with a barbell, right? So let us do the heavy lifting. I'll pass it around, but we've had good luck with this one all throughout. Like that, the market, right? Buyers are waiting for their home. They're going to fight over your home. Done something like this, like a spin-off on like a wanted poster. But we can pass these around. Here go superheroes.
That was my favorite. I like that.
Yeah. So like, this is the 4.5 by 12 size, a little bit different than what people are doing ordinarily. But we mail about 15 times a year to the same houses religiously. So there's literally, there's been people in our, area that have gotten mailers 100 times from us, because we do it time and time again. Let me go.
Where are you making those at?
So actually, Chris Hadley I used to use a printer in Canada, and I checked for pricing. So funny story, we used to have a whole production in their house. I would get a Canadian, like, huge print company to make them. They would send them to our, house. I would pull in from work, and there'd be like 14 boxes. I'm like, oh my God, it's raining. I gotta put the box in the garage. And we had a postage scale. We bought rubber bands and bulbs, cardboard boxes, but we had a whole assembly line. But then Chris Hadley introduced me to John, who's the owner of Get It Now Print on Dairy in Harrisburg, and I never touched them now. And he literally is the same price as I could do it for myself, because he's a volume game. So I sent him about 3 days later, it's in the homes. I never touch it. Sometimes I add myself to my first pass up just to see when it goes out, so I know when to expect like a phone call or what they're seeing.
So wait, Dave, sorry, what are you giving him? You're just giving him the literature. He's stuffing them, writing the
I'll
address.
say, front back of the card, right? So please mail EDDM, every door direct mail to these routes. And it's like, my zip code 17078, so it's, there's R routes and there's C routes. It's like rural and city. City, the walking route, rural, the car route, it's irrelevant, but you literally put R2, R3, R4, C1, C2, the routes, and then he writes back a couple days later with his invoice. You know, it's not cheap, but like here, like we literally did this March 20th, like just last week, right? 5 days ago, 8,400 homes, and the printing cost was $822, and the mailing was $1783. And that's because we do thicker cards, bigger cards. It could be cheaper, but you would lose some luster in the process. But that works out to 31.3 cents per household. But that mailing did cost $2,600, right? It's fairly expensive, but we're talking 8,500 homes as well. There's also a hyper local media mail option, which with printing and postage is 53.5 cents. With that one, you can provide the CSV file and mail it to exactly who you want. So there's kind of a break even. Like if you're talking like a targeted, like I want to mail just this townhome community, you'll probably save money that way. You're paying close to double on the household, but you're sending it to like a smaller audience generally, or a more specific audience. So you do have that option, but I honestly, I go by the shotgun approach, just repetitive. Like I said, we've mailed 15 times a year, roughly over 9 years. And people have gotten 135 mailers from us in the last 9 years, right? So you're truly creating like that top of mind awareness. Now I have started more targeted stuff with the media mail, because I'm trying to talk. The more local you can be in your messaging, the more it resonates, right? So if I mail, if you live in a townhome and I mail to that townhome list and talk about that townhome community, it's more relevant, right? So we have a couple neighborhoods that we target, that we're trying to take share, and we do the media mail versus the every door direct mail, because we can be more specific. We know exactly who's going to. But the other benefit of this is you can control where your customers come from, right? Like, so we are able to do 50 listings a year and be within like a 5-mile radius of our house, because we choose who we send it to. Like, I'm not gonna send it to somebody in Gardner's, right? That'd be stupid. Like, I'd have to drive an hour and a half for the appointment. So, you know, all those.
I might. So where are you like actually designing these?
So 9 years ago, when it first started, I went on like, either Freelancer or Fiverr. I think it was Freelancer at the time, and I found a Serbian graphic designer person. I've used him ever since. I literally just talked to him on the WhatsApp for the first time ever, like 2 weeks ago, because I wanted him to do something more complex, and we needed to have, you know, and it was nice to meet after 9 years, but, I have a guy, he works in the middle of the night, right, so he's like a 6-hour time difference. I sent it to him today. I'll have it back tomorrow, and because I've used him for 9 years, he knows what I want. I send him very little information. I'm like, hey, new listing, 110 Main Street, $320,000, comes on Market Friday, and he knows the rest, right? He knows the colors, the fonts, the logos, and so forth. So I spend like about $20 a card for design. So it's about $210 a month is what the design bill comes out to be. So it's economical. Here's the media mail example. So we mail to a 506 home farm, and at that 53.5 cents, whatever, costs about $270 million. But if you think about it, this is the neighborhood that I've always been passionate about. We have 4 rentals in the community, and we've had good share there. I've led the markets in 2018 in that community, but we started to see it like drop off, right? Because we weren't focusing on it. It was part of our big farm, but it wasn't local messaging. It was just like, here's what's going on in the town. So going back to the local mailers talking about like, hey, this is what's happening in your community. They're all townhomes. Average sale price is $260, so the average check is about $7,100. If I mail 15 times a year, it's $4,000, right? 270 times 15. If I mail 21 times a year, it's $5,700. So sounds like big numbers, but I'll take 4, 5, 6 listings in there. We'll double dip 1 or 2 of them, and we'll get a buyer that doesn't buy to buy somewhere else, and it's just like a snowball effect. So this stuff works because our checks are so big, right? So that's the value, and I think I have another example of that maybe later. But so here's an example of the cars. I didn't know I was bringing those, or I couldn't find them because our basement kind of flooded. You know, just all different sizes, shapes, different messaging. I do a lot of stuff that they tell you not to do. They tell you not to do just listed, just sold, but I do, it works, right? And I'm not here to say that you send a postcard and you get a phone call immediately, right? Like, but it's more that long-term, top of mind awareness where because they've gotten our cards, so many times, or sometimes you do get lucky and you hit the one that's like, oh my gosh, we were just thinking about, calling someone. So we have this the back of the card, as you can see, as we pass them around. Next, I have just basically how we grew. So in the beginning, we bought mailing labels, and I would print like 20 sets at once on my printer with 1 stickers, Avery labels, and I would put them on the postcard, and we'd take them to the post office after putting stamps on. Yeah. And honestly, the post office they get mad because you're gonna have work to do, but, so we started with 600 homes, and then started getting a little success and grew it to 2,000 homes, and then to 9,000, which is essentially our entire town. And now I expanded, added like another area here late last year, so we're now to about 17,000 homes a pop. You know, to try to get, you know, more calls, more listings, more buyers for our buyer's agent. It's pretty complicated to do both. Okay, and so really just show you like the map. The results, this is our Palmyra market share. So obviously our first year, 2015, we had no business, right? We stumbled across 2 sales. There was 290 total homes. We had 1% of the market. Then we did 8 the next year, 23. We were cranking right about the time when we quit our jobs, right? 2019, COVID hurt us because people stopped selling their houses, but we did 38 listings in 2019. So that's where it truly did make sense. They felt like they saw us everywhere because they kind of did. We had 12% of the market share, right? So 1 in 8 homes in the entire town was sold by us. And then that started to drop off a little bit, and it actually kind of pissed me off. So like that's when I started to focus again because I didn't like the 6%. So started marketing, and we're back up to 11, and we'll probably be in double digits again this year. And then the volume that related to that, obviously our highest year was 33 million, but we had a pretty consistent, when the effort was consistent, right? The income was consistent, 33 million, 32 million, 32 million. And that's back when it was hard to get those numbers. Our average sale price is probably 210 or 290, where now it's pushing 400. So we could really get to 40, 50 million with the same kind of results. But here's like the plan, right? So I have this in advance. Terry's gonna hopefully help me with this, but we're gonna mail 21 times to our farm, right? So just taking up a notch from 15. And I try to be in advance of the season, right? So that's why you see 3 in April. So we hit it hard in the late winter, early spring, because they're probably not gonna call you because they got your postcard yesterday. They're gonna call you because they got 4 in the last 2 or 3 months, right? And I try to have, you know, strategic, like in-home dates. I like to be in the house, like on a Thursday or Friday, going in the weekend. Just my own belief is that husband and wife are home over the weekend, they have more time to talk, like that's when the decision is made. You know, we try to avoid the first of the month where like bills come out and things like that, because the mailbox is noisy. But that's kind of my schedule. You know, and we did a lot of analytics behind it, like when do people actually list their home? If they list in April, when was the decision made? Probably late February, early March. And then the math, right? So we will mail to, my budget for this year is $110,000 in every door direct mail. So, but I'm here to tell you how that's kind of irrelevant. You obviously have the means to do it, but $110,000 will deliver 352,000 pieces to 17,000 homes, which is 21 times each. But the return, average sale price right now for us is 426. Average commission rate, I'd say somewhat conservative at 2.7%. That means the average check is 11.5. So our break even on that is 10 sales, right? To get a 4x return, which a lot of people say we want to see, we would need to do 40 sales. So, like, will we do 40 listings off the mailers? Maybe not. We'll do 10. And what it's doing is it's putting fuel on the fire, it's giving you business, right? Listings bring buyers, right? You double dip some, you get buyers, it allows you open house opportunity, it allows you to market coming soon for sale, under contract. We try to get like 4 or 5 touch points out of every listing, right? So coming soon, for sale, open house, under contract, we're out there on social media with all that, now we're on the home tours and so forth. So it sounds expensive, $100,000, obviously sounds expensive, but if I go to the next slide, you'll see that the rest of the intrinsic value is listings bring buyers, listings take less time, listings are easier, and for the most part, listings sell, right? There was a time post-COVID that if you list the house, you're like on the way out the driveway, you're like, oh, 10 grand, in literally 45 days, I'll make 10 grand because I listed a house and it will sell. Good question, Tony?
Yeah, in your marketing,
Are you Anthony over there, or are you Tony?
whatever you want.
Okay.
Your marketing dollars, like what percentage of it is spent on these physical mailers versus digital content or something else?
I'd say 40%.
Okay.
We're probably 250, 300K total spend, so. And like, I'm completely opposite Matt, right? He doesn't spend hardly anything. That's all new to him to do those gifts and things like that. But we've always been like, that's prospecting versus marketing, right? So there's been years where we grossed $1 million, right? So to me, it's like, hey, I'll trade 300 grand for $1 million, right? Like, it's also what allows us to have business, right? Because we wouldn't have been able to capture the customers otherwise. So, and if I look at the next slide, so the compounding effect, so media mail, I think media mail, so you can have the exact list of homes, that 506 size farm, costs $271 a farm, $260,000 average sale price. If we mail, I think we went over this, but 24 homes will be sold in that farm this year, right? So there's 48 transactions there. 24 listings, 24 buyers, right? 48 sales. We'll list 4, 5, 6 of them, and we'll get 2 or 3 buyers. So that's 6 to 9 sales. We'll gross 40 to 60,000 off of that $4,000 to $6,000 investment, right? So that's literally a 10x return because that's a specific neighborhood that I know has high turnover, and you guys all have them, right? It's usually like your $260,000 single family or your 180 to 300 townhouse. The place that I bought when I was single, I got married, now I need to sell it, or we had a kid, or we got relocated, that type of thing. So the math does work. Next slide. So this is just showing you some trickle effect that we've had, or like domino effect, I should say. So every door direct mail. So this is a listing we got through postcard in 2023, right? So we listed the house. And another agent sold it. But in the course of that, we had like a sign call that ended up buying a home in Manheim with a different realtor. They called us and said, will you sell our Lebanon home? We said, sure. So we got the original listing sold. We sold their Lebanon home. We ended up getting a signed call from that house, got the buyer, and then listed their home, right? So one postcard, like literally cost 31 cents. Now, granted, it was part of a bigger effort, but it generated $2.2 million of volume or $55,000 in commission. So that's the power of we all the time we look at the sale we got and we just measure that value. Well, what if I were to double dip it? What if I do it on the house and get 2 unrepresented buyers that both buy homes? And what if one of them then refers me to their cousin, and one of them has an uncle that dies, and I sell his house? Like there's a big domino effect to some of this stuff. So another example is we had a bill lead in 2019, girl moving here for a medical program in Hershey. She bought this condo in the top left corner there for $190,000. Just recently, like 5 months ago, maybe, she sold it. But in the course of that, her mom decided to move here from California and buy a second home to be near her daughter and son-in-law. So they bought the one in the top right. Then she sold that. When we listed the home, we got the buyer for it because they called us. And then they bought the home in the bottom left there, the white one. And mom, I guess, was envious, so she, we have no picture of it, it's supposed to be there, oh, you have it,
Yeah,
okay,
it's there.
so call from a medical person, they buy this home, she later sells it, so we get the listing, we got the buyer, kind of unrelated randomly there. They then bought this house, it happens to be in our neighborhood, it was also our listing, but I didn't count that one. And then, mom bought this home, it happens to be her second home, she recently, sold it, and then she's building a new construction home to be closer to her daughter's new home. And in the meantime, she had a California house for 1.2 million to sell, we referred that, and the 25% portion is worth $300,000 sale, right? So just one Zillow lead was $3 million or 73,000 in commission. So a lot of times we lose sight of that, and that's why I get so down on shape when we lose like a listing appointment, because first of all, I don't want to lose because we're paying for the phone ring, and we think we do a good job at doing a listing presentation. But what more did you lose? You lost the listing, where you could have lost the buy side, you could have lost where they're going on the purchase side, you could have lost a referral opportunity, so it could all of a sudden be this big loss that you endured. But and the one caution I'll have is when you do market for business versus prospect for it, we're up against competition a lot, right? Like, so almost every single seller is interviewing us and another agent or two or three, and I think that's because they didn't plan on calling us. Like, they called us because of our marketing effort, but they're pitting us against like the person that their family recommended or the realtor they used last time. So we're kind of walking the door as the underdog already, right? So we have to really step up and show off for each appointment. And that's been frustrating because we do lose a decent amount, right? But, and take it personal, right? Like, 'cause, you know, a lot of times they don't go with someone for a higher price or a lesser commission, but like they went with somebody else, they like them better as people, right? So that's a hard pill to swallow. So we're trying to get better with that. I'd say we're probably 65%, listing conversion, but that means we're talking to, 15 houses a year, $15 a year, where there's somebody else is selling their house, and then somebody else gets the benefit of that domino effect. But that's pretty much what I had prepared, but I'm sure there's questions. So what do we, I stopped working again. What do you got for me? You can't put this slide. Look at that.
There we go, there we go.
What else is on there? What you want to know? So, any questions from the group?
Have you ever used the, direct mail feature inside of? I'm just curious if you've ever.
Where we have them print it for you and everything?
Yeah.
Once, I think people are office do, I think it's like 70, 90 cents a piece, right? So it's expensive, but they just make it easier for you. They partner with the printing company. You can draw a circle around the addresses and never touch it, but I don't honestly like
So this is going to be cost effective, you're using it.
cost effective, and I just, because I have a guy that does things the way I like, I don't like to have to putt around with designs, or I don't want him to have to use that. He uses Photoshop or whatever he uses, he's good at it. So, for me, it's more about the consistency and, so I don't.
Yeah.
So your local printer actually does everything from printing to like putting them in the
Great,
group
this is both
and
of
it
them.
takes it.
Yeah.
Wow.
And so he prints it, at the post office, you have to band it in either 50s or 100s. You have to have a facing slip.
It drives me crazy. I have a hole in my floor kitchen table.
Yeah, we did, yeah.
We've been there.
And really, we used
I
to
didn't
count,
know that was possible.
we used to count them, we're like 1, 2, 3, 100. And then I got a little smarter and I got a postage scale and said, okay, if this 100 stack weighs 17.6 grams or whatever it is, then, and I would just start weighing them. And then I just started going stacks. I'm like, screw it, it can be close. I'm not gonna count all these things. So I counted 100, I would put the next stack up and just level it off. And I'm like, this is close enough for me, because I didn't have time. Like, there was times it would be like,
Lugging these boxes and.
and we would be like, do you want to do the mailers tonight? No, not really. And then like, so they'd sit, and sometimes they become a little dated, or they're in the car and you really don't have time to drop them off at the post office, right? So, but yeah, I never touched them. I just sent one out this morning. He's like, your mail has been dropped off at the post office. They'll hit home probably either today or tomorrow. And you just get the bill.
But
So,
it's okay to do that at first. I mean, we all have to do that.
but it's not more expensive.
That's first. Yeah, what's the first?
It's including that 31.3.
Oh.
There's no fee is like to deliver them. He gets a courier.
Who was that?
John from Get It Out Print on Dairy.
I think my business card is in.
It's kind of, what is it there, Home Depot? It's kind of like Home Depot where Staples used to be, and I've been there like twice, but I had to pick up, yeah, I don't even go there. So like, I had physical things. He's the cheapest around for everything, but,
Everything,
Um,
flyers,
could you say the name again?
business
Marketing.
cards, get it now.
We did for our event that we just had for the brokers, we had big poster boards made, and I mean, it's like this 24 by 36 poster board, and they're like $17 a piece, for like for your events and stuff. And he does everything. I'm like, hey, can you do table tents? Can you do die cut? He's like, yeah, send it over. Like, so he hasn't not been able, I just got a 20 open house directionals that look like a house. They're expensive when you get them on the internet. He's like, yeah, send it over. We have a automated like die cut machine, and they're $11 a piece. I'm getting 20 open house directionals. They're like 14 by 17 or something, and it has our logo on our colors, and it's $220 for 20 of them.
Yeah, I emailed my business card over to them, my own design on Canva, and they just print it, and within a day, it was 1,000 cards, like $40. Right. Next year.
I use them for birthday parties for my kids, like, he's like, I'll design stuff, I'll buy things from Etsy, and I'll send them there for birthday parties, like, anything that you need to be printed.
Because I've always done this.
Yeah,
Just the fact that he takes out the production and brings it to this.
I think Scott print was the cheapest I found. That was the Canadian print house. They're like, they have a huge print warehouse or whatever, but he does it, like, it might be like a penny more. But like the fact that I don't have to buy boxes, rubber bands, or paper. I don't have to get paper cuts. I don't have to drive to the post office.
And those things give you some magazines, let me tell
And
you.
the postal people are able, they've all gone postal, like, you come in carrying the box, and like rolling their eyes, here we go again.
I think it's what he would send me because he knew that.
I'm like, by the way, I paid $2,000 to keep your job, because you guys are fun.
Feedback.
Question? Question? Yeah.
Oh, no.
I thought you had, whatever, happy to share what.
Have you ever had anyone reach back out to you and say, stop sending me?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I have, I can't show it here, but, on the facing slip that the EDM requires the post officers do not deliver addresses, so I have, I mean, honestly, probably like 40 people that have called and complained, and,
Really?
I'd like to counsel them and say, like, I don't know about you guys, when I get my mail, I take it to the dumpster, and I'm like, it's not that big of a deal to
Now,
get
these
junk
people
mail.
will call you.
Take my name off,
People, but, I also found that people are more easily offended when you actually put their name on it. Because we have people, you put my husband, Gerald died 10 years ago, whatever, so for the most part, I'll do like current resident and 110 Main Street instead of Anthony Miller, because if I spell your name wrong, if you got divorced and your wife is still there, like there's people are mad at you for something you didn't even know. Good call.
Yeah. That's okay, don't let that deter you.
No,
Anything else?
Be super nice,
I guess the evolution of that is, I've been coaching with Dave Book, so I now have, thanks to Dave, a $200 a month ReCentral bill with like 14 phone numbers, but the advantage of that is it allows you to track all your lead sources, right? Like I can run a report and see exactly how many times the number on the mailer, it literally used to be Karen's cell phone number. But now it's a separate number that doesn't appear anywhere else. So I can see exactly how many times the phone rings from the mailer. Same time, our Google, Google 3-pack, Google business number is different than our Google pay-per-click number with our Zillow number, everything. And there's a couple reasons for that. First, obvious is lead ROI, lead tracking. How many times did that number ring? Second, you can route it differently. Like if you grow a team like Matt's trying to do or we're trying to do, you can have calls to specific numbers, ring to specific people. You can also turn it off. Like right now we have Posh, it's an answering service, so my phone will never not be answered. So if we don't answer it, it will go to a 24/7 answering service that has my script on what to say. And then I get a alert through the app that we missed a call. So like it will never not answer a phone call. It's either gonna be Karen, me, Aaron, or the answering service, which is live. But also you're getting their information in the course of it. The answering service asks for their name and phone number and email. But also like quality of life, right? Like I have it where our phone doesn't ring until 10 o'clock in the morning on Sunday or after like 6 on Saturday and Sunday. So like literally it will just go to the live answering service at those times. You can change that anytime you want. And then obviously if it's like a hot lead, like I want to sell my house now, the answering service, I get the ping, we're gonna call them back. but it allows you to screen out the other people that are like looking for a rental or whatever, so that's been nice. It's a little bit, set up. We also just started doing, based on Dave's feedback, we did the open house every day sign. So right next to our for sale sign, people for some reason don't call the for sale sign number as much as they do the open house every day. So I got them made, so the open house every day, call, as a separate number. And now that one goes right to Aaron, like, it's probably a buyer, they want to see the house, but for them, it's more subtle, they're not thinking they're disturbing, they're literally calling to see when's the open house, what time is the open house? And he's like, well, and he asked me some pre-screen questions, but then I'll be like, well, we don't have an open house today, but we'll be happy to show it to you, it's a private showing, I could be there in 30 minutes. But people are more apt to call that number, and literally, he stores it in his phone as OHED, right? Open house every day. When that number rings, it means one thing, someone's outside of one of our listings wanting to see it, right? So like, you can prioritize that as importantly as the bill lead, because it's a buyer likely still in front of the house that you can talk to. Anything else? Nothing? Thanks, Steve. Nothing? Brittany? Didn't ask a single question.
Did you ever?
No, that's what they-
You nailed it before I could even hear nailed it. I would just say, because I was a buyer's agent on Facebook's team, those open house everyday signs, like, those were, and
He does three numbers in every property. I have two right now, but obviously the getting three team numbers, but, and when I think back, you kind of sparked a memory. When I first met Karen, she had a house like on the outskirts of Lebanon that we tried to sell. And we listed it with a guy that we worked with at Verizon, and that was a realtor part-time. And we couldn't sell it, and literally, we didn't have any money, so every time we made a payment, we lowered the price like $300. Probably looked like for a psychopath, looking back now, but that's what we did, like, hey, we paid it off, we got the new statement, like, hey, lower it to 126,500 because we just made another payment. But we ended up getting rid of him, and we hired another realtor who we actually sold the house with, and then bought our next house, and it was because we got a postcard in the mail. So I think subliminally, that's what probably got me researching. You know how everybody feels like at something, like, oh, she just made 10 grand. I mean, she doesn't deserve it or whatever. So you look up, like, how did this realtor do this postcard campaign? Because I'm like, I would say that with my Verizon job and stuff, I was like an average or above average, like, consumer. Like, I knew some stuff about marketing, and I quote unquote fell for it, right? I called the woman from the postcard. I didn't fall for it. It worked. She sold her house, but that's how I got introduced to her. If I would have asked around at work or whatever, I probably could have found a realtor referral, but I didn't, right? So if I didn't do it, how many other people will fall for the postcard effect? And
And I remember, I think she had kind of the stats on her card that made me like, wow, this woman's selling stuff. And she's like just like, it was just, I think stats, and that she made like whatever club. And I was like, oh, this is a legit realtor. Let's get her.
I would just add to, when you start with postcards or sign calls, like, all of that, you're